from this verdict and his sentencing. Ben.
Yeah, Molly, Jamie, good afternoon from a very busy courthouse. I want to first show you right behind me. You can probably see this crowd over my left shoulder. That are all the reporters that were in this courtroom, and now they are interviewing the prosecutors and the defense teams in this case. As you mentioned, the big news, though, Rayquan Borum found guilty of second-degree murder and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. Take a look at some video here from this trial. With that, the sentence will be up to 28 years in prison on the second-degree murder charge and a little over 2 years maximum for the possession of a firearm. Keep in mind, Borum has been behind bars since this shooting happened back in September of 2016, so he will get credit for that time served. This was a trial that spanned a couple weeks, 6 days of testimony. The prosecutors called roughly 18 witnesses to the stand, about 124 pieces of evidence. The defense, when it was their turn, called no witnesses to the stand, and Rayquan Borum himself did not testify. So again, second-degree murder, guilty. Possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, guilty. We did hear from Vivian Carr briefly at that sentencing here. Vivian Carr saying, quote, basically summarizing, saying she felt like her son, Justin Carr, had been lost in this. Obviously, Justin Carr, the victim in this story, killed in uptown Charlotte back in 2016. She felt that her son got lost and a lot of the attention was on Rayquan Borum, and she said she was proud of her son for going uptown that night to take a stand for what he believed in. So again, 6 days of testimony. Jurors were deliberating for about since Wednesday morning, more than 14 hours they were deliberating, and they just returned that verdict of second-degree murder and possession of a firearm, guilty, unanimous on both accounts. Like I mentioned, right now, our Colleen Harry has been in that courtroom all trial. She is speaking with the attorneys from both sides, and we're also hoping to hear a little bit more from Justin Carr's mother, Vivian. That'll all be coming up tonight at 6 o'clock. But for now, we're live here at the courthouse. Ben Williamson, WBTV. On your side.
Ben, you and Colleen are doing a great job. Thank you so much. Now, this story has been in the making for several years.
Borum guilty of second-degree murder. We want to go right to our Ben Williamson. He's part of our team coverage as our Colleen Harry is inside the courtroom. He is live outside the Mecklenburg County Courthouse with more. Ben.
Brigida, that's right. After more than 13 hours of deliberations, the jury has found Rayquan Borum guilty of second-degree murder and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. That verdict brought down just moments ago, like you mentioned. Colleen Harry still in the courtroom right now as the prosecution and defense thank the jury for their service. Now, this has been, again, it was 6 days of testimony. The state called roughly 18 witnesses, had about 124 pieces of evidence. Remember, this defense didn't call a single witness. Now, they did obviously cross-examine some of the prosecutor's witnesses, but they didn't call any witnesses themselves, and we know Rayquan Borum did not testify on his behalf either. This all is going back to 2016, September of 2016, where Rayquan Borum now found guilty of second-degree murder in the death of Justin Carr. Both men were uptown during those protests after the shooting of Keith Lamont Scott. That happened on a Wednesday. Justin Carr was killed 2 days later. Jurors spent 6 days hearing from witnesses, watching videos and things like that. And we know that there's been some, some discussion and some questions that Colleen Harry has reported that the jurors had over the past 3 days of deliberations, one of which was Rayquan Borum actively participating in that riot or protest or not? And so we know that some of the questions here were about first degree versus second degree. He did face possibility of first-degree murder. If that would have been the case, he would have been sentenced automatically to life in prison without parole. Now, though, us knowing that he's been found guilty of second-degree murder, it's going to be up to the judge on exactly how many years in prison Borum will face. He also will have that charge of possessing a firearm. Like we said, Brigida and Alex, this is breaking news. We're going to have team coverage coming up all afternoon on WBTV. Colleen Harry in the courtroom. We are standing by for the attorneys to address the media, possibly even the family of Justin Carr. All of it coming up on WBTV. But for now, we'll send it back to you in the studio.
Yeah, we know when something like this this happens, it takes a moment for things to settle in the courtroom. It will be some time before our Colleen Harry is able to make her way outside, which is why we wanted to get to you, Ben. Thank you very much. We are, of course, going to follow the very latest on this breaking news. A verdict